So the subject of the day has to be masks. Being active in them, wearing them. What did you do in the gym? So I'm going to tell you about our experience so far. Our clients are not required in Virginia to wear the masks, but many do. And most of my staff and I have been exercising in them so that we could not only keep our facility safe, but also gain some experience in using them. So with regard to the surgical mask, from a respiratory standpoint, most people find very little extra challenge. Doesn't mean it's comfortable, because it's still warm, moist air in and around what we'll call your snout area, and that's uncomfortable. But from an increase in heart rate, increase in blood pressure, we've noticed very little difference. From a perceived exertion standpoint, we've noticed a very little difference until somebody gets to a higher intensity. And let's be fair, not everybody needs to be at a high intensity of exercise. But with the surgical mask, certainly as I breathe in and out more frequently, if my breathing gets rushed, there gets to be a suction in and out. It causes a discomfort. But for low to moderate exercise, we find great success in the surgical mask. Obviously, as we go up the thickness ladder, if I go to a cloth mask, like so, a little bit thicker, absorbs the moisture a bit more. So yesterday in this mask, I was doing some outdoor work to try to use it as an adaptive opportunity to get stronger, more capable in my mask. And as I was outside in the sun, got really sweaty. This absorbed seemingly every drop of sweat coming from my top. And pretty soon I was breathing in sweat off of the mask. My solution was simple. I pulled out a second mask, tossed away the wet one. I should have gotten that on sooner. Now that's not realistic for everybody, but if you've got washable masks, be ready to use 2 or 3 in the course of a workout, it's a good strategy if you have to keep the mask on. Now, as we go to the thickest masks, or the thickest mask I have, not the full respirator version, but here, this has a filter in the front, so it's the most thick, and obviously it's gonna create somewhat of a challenge to my in and out respiration. And we try to keep people in the stronger masks at lower to moderate intensities. But there's lots of exercise that people do at low to moderate intensity. In fact, much of the research over the last 5 or 6 years has showed that real high intensity work in a program needs to be very small in dosage. That most of us who exercise at a high intensity probably put a little too much faith into that, could reduce our intensity, focus on technique and quality, good execution, and get just as much out of it with less exhaustion out of the scenario. I bring that up because if you're wearing a thick mask, most of your program is going to be at a low to moderate intensity anyway. You could do stretching, you could do balance work, you could do movement quality scenarios, you could do basic weightlifting exercises. And I say basic because what has to be appreciated, in addition to the discomfort of the warmth around the face, and at thicker masks, a little bit of restriction in and out, is that when I put the mask on, immediately I've got a tweak to my visual field. So very often we think of peripheral vision on the outside, but it encompasses low and high as well. Basically, this is like the mask I used to wear in high school when I would try to practice dribbling a basketball and not see the ball. When I put this on, I can't see anything down in this area. So if I'm doing functional dynamic exercise, that becomes a little bit of an issue because my computer is getting less information. It basically has to put more energy and effort into stabilizing me. I'll move less fluidly, but it's a positive tweak. Very often in a good exercise setting, we will, in fact, with our clients, we'll play with their visual field. We'll have them cover their dominant eye. We might go to scenarios where they're looking one way while moving another so that we challenge that sensory scenario. So I feel the mask in that regard, hugely positive tweak. And you are getting more out of less. And that's really the aim of a good exercise program. How much stimulus can you get for the least wear and tear on your body? So a positive tweak in that regard. But even if you're doing basic weightlifting exercises, say a push-up, a bench press, a pull down, things that don't require lots of coordination, this actually tweaks up the intensity of your work. So for you heavy lifters, keep in mind that with the mask, that sensory tweak, along if it's a thick mask with the respiratory tweak, drop down your intensity, drop down the load a little bit, might be a wise move. Lastly, adapting to the mask. People start exercise programs of any sort on a low to moderate level if they're smart. Volume, dosage, frequency. You ease in so you don't overcook the system. Same thing with trying to adapt to a mask. Treat it like an exercise, a new exercise program. Wear the mask at home for 5-10 minutes, doing your laundry, doing the dishes, going up and down steps, so you can get used to that visual tweak, that sensory change. And to any sort of respiratory scenario it challenges on you. At first though, be aware, the anxiety, the feeling of having that restriction probably is something that you can adapt to nicely, especially with the thinner surgical masks, but even with the thicker ones. Then start to increase it. Then use it on a walk, so that before you go into a setting where you have to be at work or in a public space with the mask on for a long period of time, you're adjusted, you've adapted, you've gotten yourself mask fit, not from a fitness tolerance, but from a sensory and movement capacity tolerance. So there's ways to get used to the mask and have them be very comfortable. We've seen it in our staff and in our clients, and we encourage everybody to try to use strategies that are smart and moderate so that the mask becomes something that you're comfortable with while we're in this situation where we've got to be wearing them. Best of luck.